Hello and welcome to the Earthborne Games Podcast. I'm your host, Anders Carlson, and joining me, as always, is Andrew Fisher. Hi, Andrew.
Hello.
How have you been?
Oh, pretty good. 2 weeks older puppy is still a puppy, so we got a slight break because we tried out a doggy daycare and that thing wiped him out, and so he was very, very tired for the day after and was just like the laziest dog ever. Our friends who visited while he was all like tired and lazy got a very incorrect impression of him. But today
he's not so
fully
bad.
back. He's fully back to terror mode today. Like we were handling the zoomies shortly before this call.
What are the zoomies? It's a shoe store. That's all I know.
I think that's zoomies.
It's a shoe store in the mall.
Zoombas? No, the Zumba is aerobic exercise of some kind, right?
And Zoomies is like a teenage skateboarding shoe store at the mall.
Yeah, with a U instead of... This is like Zoomies with 2 O's, I think. And it's like the dogs get into these like frenetic, like almost manic modes some of them are for a few minutes, at least according to Reddit. My dogs go on forever, but they can be for all sorts of reasons. Generally, Finn's seem to be when he's overtired. If he doesn't get enough naps, he'll just like, much like a toddler, he won't get sleepy. He'll just get in a worse mood.
Yeah, very much like a toddler. Yeah.
So we've been trying very, very hard to get him to nap. We'll like put on lo-fi beats and like put him in his crate with the blanket over and like tiptoe around the house all silently all day, like just working in silence, trying to not wake up the puppy. So it's been fun.
That's cool. Do you guys ever get the zoomies at this stage in the Earthborne process? Earthborne Rangers?
the creative zoomies.
Yeah. Just tired of it. You start racing around the house.
I usually, want to nap. And in my 30s, I think I don't get frenetic energy as much as a desire to go lay in bed.
I hear you.
Yeah, I'm in Fisher's camp with
Yeah, come like 9:30, I'm ready for bed some nights.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, hell yeah. We're also joined. I always get this screwed up. Joined by Evan Simonet. It's by.
Hi.
Hi, Evan.
Hey.
How are you doing?
Good. I was just explaining to you and Fisher before this whole thing started that I thought I was going to be late because I was watching Megan and I were having dinner and I had Signy, my daughter, just sitting on not my lap, but between my legs on the couch. And she just had this like blowout in her diaper and I didn't notice it. And it got it seeped through her outfit and it got on me. So, and I didn't have time to change. So I kind of got like a little bit of...
That's always the worst. Like you never, you don't notice it as it's happening. You're just kind of like, maybe going through the grocery store. You're like, what is this wet feeling I have?
Yeah. They give you no indication whatsoever. I mean,
no,
I guess they kind of do sometimes, but not yet.
Right.
She's just not aware of what's happening.
Welcome back, Andrew. It's all puppies, babies, and poop here now.
Yeah. Sounds great. Just like I left it.
Andrew, welcome back. How was your camping trip?
Thank you.
Where'd you go?
It was a lot of fun. We went to the Black Hills in South Dakota, which I'd never been to before. Oh. Yeah, so this summer was great. Like we went on two trips to mountains and places that I've never been before, and both of them were
the other
fantastic. We went to the to the Smoky Mountains.
Oh,
yeah, Shenandoah National Park. Yep.
Yeah, cool.
This was Custer State Park and the Black Hills National Forest are like right next to each other. So we were in Custer State Park.
That's
and
cool.
My wife and kids had gone there when I was at Gen Con one year. In 2019, I think they went, and said it was really awesome. And we've been meaning to get back since then. And my wife was right. It was awesome. It was beautiful. Just amazing, really dramatic rock formations. Like all of the mountains they're smaller than the Rockies, but they're all pretty well forested, and they just have like these just massive like cliff faces kind of like sticking out of all of them. And then there's also these really cool rock formations. We went to this one place called the Citadel Spires. Oh, Cathedral Spires. That's what it was. Cathedral Spires. And it was this ring of just massive rocks that you hiked up to. And it was like almost like an ancient caldera of a volcano or something. And just all these towering mountains around you. It felt like they were just these massive beings together in some kind of, like they were meeting in some kind of council or something. It was really cool. I highly recommend checking it out. And it was very inexpensive. We were just, camping in a camping spot, like underneath this giant rock that like looked out over a valley.
Your camping spot was very cool. It was like, it's not just like some pad somewhere, like under a rock formation. It was very, that was a very cool tent spot.
Yeah, it was really neat. It was a little shady, like in the shade, not like dodgy. But it had a really cool spot you could like hike up to that was nearby, and climb out on some rocks where I'd get up in the morning right around dawn, make a cup of tea in a little metal cup with just a pan of water on our camping stove. It was a very nice thing. It was a really awesome like morning ritual, very different from what I usually do here, where like I get up and pick up my phone and just scroll through garbage for about 30 minutes shortly after waking up. Instead, make some tea, walk up this path, climb on some rocks, and then sit out on this kind of outcropping that just looks over the valley as the sun rises up over the mountains and the clouds.
Oh man,
it's great. It's
so essential.
Awesome.
Yeah, this weekend I went to Oregon to visit my sister, and she kind of lives in this little weird old shack in the woods,
cool,
by mountains, and I had similar mornings, getting up before them and just kind of walking around and looking at the slugs on the ground.
Cool. Did you do any hot springs while you were out there?
No, it was just like a sudden surprise visit for 3 days, so we did as much as we could. But yeah, no, I didn't even know that there was hot springs there.
Oh yeah. I lived in Oregon for a very short period of time, like 4 months.
What city or what town?
Eugene.
Okay.
Where University of Oregon is. It's like an hour and a half-ish south of Portland.
Yeah, we were north. I was in Seaside.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it was great. It was beautiful. It was beautiful out there. Yeah, my wife has a friend who lives in Astoria.
Cool. It's a cool town.
Yeah, it looks really neat. Is that the town in the Goonies?
Yes, there's tons of Goonies paraphernalia in the gift shops and everything. They're really still milking that. It also is where Short Circuit was filmed.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so really?
There's some like collab merch in the gift shops where it's like Johnny Five with Sloth
with the Goonies
back. Yeah.
Nice.
I love Short Circuit, but I've never seen Goonies. I've never seen it.
What?
It's one of those where people always scream at me like that just now.
I didn't see
what
it
is wrong
much
with
later. You? Yeah, I was right there with you until like maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I finally saw it.
I mean, okay,
wow,
I saw it when I was a little child, but I don't remember it at all. So I can't. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, it got in there somehow. Then
I remember being afraid of Sloth. Yeah, I was afraid of Sloth. Is that his name, Sloth?
It was his name.
Still is.
Yep.
Oh, did he perish at the end?
No.
Okay.
He's alive. He lives. Spoilers.
Still alive?
Sloth lives. Yeah.
Take a note of that one. All right. Well, we've got a show tonight, or today. Today, we'll say today. You guys are watching it on the day, hopefully. Thanks for joining us. We've got some listener questions, as always, work stories. We're going to talk about some cool stuff we're into. But let's get started with the first question, which comes from Mayjest. Thanks for writing us again. They ask, I'm 99% sure the Kickstarter said there'd be dividers in the base box, but I don't think I've heard any mention of them since. Have I remembered correctly that there are dividers included, and is there any word on what they'd look like? What are dividers, first of all? What are they referencing?
So dividers are usually, so when you store cards, it can be kind of a pain when you have lots of cards, because they're just like in this big stack, right? And so you can kind of keep them organized in some order, but like it's kind of hard to like sit there and find exactly, where the division is in the different groups of cards. So dividers are usually just like cards that are a little bigger, um, that can kind of go and divide up your cards laying in a big long stack to make it kind of easy to sort through them.
I see. Cool.
Yeah. Additionally, somebody Zoltan on Discord was also curious to hear just about our general packaging and thoughts on organizing the game. They mentioned Time Stories as a game that they felt does organization really well, and was just curious about kind of our ethos on organizing Rangers. So, Andrew, do you have any thoughts? Do you want to make assurances about dividers?
Yeah, well, I was just as you were talking, I was just looking at the file and wondering if we should just share it really quick, just so people could see what it's not sexy because they're just card dividers.
Oh no, could you share the can you bring up the render from the rule book of like the 3D render of like the box open with the dividers in it?
That's on the Kickstarter page. Like if you want to see that,
that's true.
You
Yeah.
can anyone can look at that. Yeah, so if you go on the Kickstarter on the campaign page, you can see a render that shows a like a visualization of what the game, I think, plus all the other content. I think it included the campaign expansion and the doubler in that render, just to show that it all fit in there. But yeah, you can go check that out if you want to on the Kickstarter page.
Spoilers, Maychest. Yes, there are dividers.
Yes, there are still dividers. The dividers are a little bit different than we are dividing different things than we had originally planned, just because that changed through physical testing and how we were actually largely determined by like how Fisher and I were actually organizing our collections as we played. So same number of dividers, but you're dividing different things.
Yeah, we kind of reprioritized one area of the cards that we very rarely referenced, and so could kind of be lumped into one larger divider. And then we use those extra dividers to kind of go into and provide some extra dividers for some other card managements that we really didn't have storage for. So we did some rearranging, like based on our experience playing. We did some kind of reprioritizing of what was divided and what wasn't, because at a certain point, when there's too many dividers, like there's only a few cards in each divider, they get really close together and they're kind of hard to use. We also kind of found that. So I think you'll be happy with the dividers we do provide.
Yeah, and I think so the dividers, just to give you a something to visualize, is they're about as big as a card laid on its side, but a little bit taller, so as you can see them. So, but it imagines cards being on their side, on their long side, as opposed to being upright in the collection. And I think you'll also find when you put your cards into your collection, the way that we've arranged the information on the cards also makes it really easy to sort and to see what you need, so that you can pull the cards out that you need. A lot of the text is like right there at the top to tell you like what set it's from, or the name of a location. It's all there on that edge.
And to Zoltan's question about like broader organization, one of the other challenges we had was just flexibility of storage. So like Time Stories, knows exactly what's in its box. It has a plastic vac tray. We're obviously not using any plastic in our game, and it has little slots for everything, right? And we didn't want to do like individual slots for everything we have, because we're a Kickstarter, and some of our components are designed to be upgraded potentially. A lot of backers are curious about, can I store the game unsleeved or sleeved? So we wanted to make sure that the storage trays can accommodate either. And if people bought the premium tokens versus the regular tokens, or decided to upgrade their tokens with something from Etsy or whatever else, like we wanted the game to be kind of customizable, as it's this hobby you have for hopefully many years. We wanted you to be able to upgrade that. So the rest of our storage is fairly flexible. We wanted to provide all the dividers you need because it's mainly a card game. It's mainly cards, so that and accessing all of those cards during the game is a really important part of our mechanics. We wanted you to be able to do that easily. So we provided those, and then the rest of the space in the box is just flexible for whatever else you need to store. So no, we're not going to have like exact storage for each individual component like something like Time Stories, but I actually think that you're going to find that that's nicer for kind of making the rest of the game your own, whether that be using our premium reclaimed pewter models to represent your ranger tokens, or getting your own cool ranger tokens off Etsy or something.
Can't wait to see those.
Or using the punchboard ones. That's also an option. You can use the punchboard ones.
Or the wooden ones. You can get the deluxe ones from us too.
All right, cool. Well, then our next question comes from Juicebox on Discord. And they ask, the last estimated release date I can remember from a while ago was September 2022. With some of the challenges finding a North American printer, among other reasonable things that can cause delays, I'm curious if there is a revised anticipated release date for the game.
Yeah, I think, well, it's hard to say. So I just posted a Kickstarter update that talked a bit about manufacturing. Obviously, it's not September 2022 because we're in September 2022.
Mm-hmm. There's no surprise drop right now?
Yeah, no. Well, I think the thing that was making me feel pretty good about September 2022 was the thought that we might be able to like manufacture in the States, and that would have made the fulfillment of the game, the time between manufacturing to fulfillment, like almost instantaneous. So if we had been able to manufacture in the States and in Europe simultaneously, everyone would be able to get it, effectively pretty shortly after that. But we ended up running behind by about, we looked at our schedule like midsummer, I think it was like in June or May. I can't remember when we looked at it, but determined we were about 6 weeks behind where we had thought we were going to be. And that ended up, pushing the time that we'd be done with the game until into mid-October with all the localization. So that pushed all that off. And then we still need to deliver the files to the factory, which right now we're planning on doing in October. But I don't have the final manufacturing dates from the manufacturer yet. So right now I'm just still working off of their estimates, which again, I detailed in the latest Kickstarter update. Are the date range is very wide. And this is something they've implemented since like all the COVID-19 supply chain issues that have been happening. They're just really nervous about saying, oh, we'll have it done in this amount of time, and then going to purchase the materials and then finding, oh, no, actually, we're going to have to delay it. So to cover their butts, they have made that duration from either 6 weeks to 15 weeks after the delivery of the files. So if everything goes perfectly and they can get everything we need and we can get right through the factory and get everything done, the game will be ready, be done manufacturing in December. If things take at the far end of that estimate, then the game won't be ready until February. So right now I'm waiting to hear from the factory as to what the actual dates are. I was hoping to know by now. I've been hoping to know for a while, but I think I'm going to go out on a limb and say within the next couple of weeks, we'll have the final dates. I hope so, because we'll have files ready for them. So we're ready to go. So as soon as we get the actual dates from them, then I will be able to really comment on what the fulfillment / release dates will be. Until now, we're just going to have to speculate. So again, it could be it could be like in January of next year. It could be February. It could be March. It's really kind of up in the air right now. So as soon as I have more information, I will share that with everybody. But I would say if you're looking for a safe bet, I would say Q1 of next year, end of Q1, beginning of Q2.
That'll be here before you know it.
Oh yeah,
We're
it's
getting close.
like no time at all. Yeah, I think there were some people on the Kickstarter. I remember reading in the comments who we were really I was really aggressive with my initial estimates on when we'd be done. So like in the Kickstarter, I was hoping for July of this year, so a couple months ago already. And someone on the Kickstarter, I remember commenting, being really surprised that it was only a year, and saying that they thought it would be a year and a half. That sounded more reasonable to them. And they were totally right. Those people were totally right. It's about a year and a half. So, which I still think is pretty good.
It's amazing for this little team,
given how big the project is. Yeah, and how small it is.
Yeah. And thank you everybody for your patience in waiting for us as we get this game done the way we want it to be done, and figure out all of the logistics around factories and everything else. Like, I know it's pretty standard for Kickstarters, and honestly, like it's pretty standard for a lot of other publishing. It just happens behind all the delays happen behind closed doors, so the customer never sees it. The Kickstarter just opens, lets you see into the process. But we still really appreciate all of you being patient and bearing with us as we make sure we get the game right.
Yeah, and everyone's been really great. I think no one's gotten angry or anything, and I think the good thing is the game's on track. It's not like it's going to be years and years down the road or not coming at all. Like some Kickstarters. So I think it's I think we could be doing a lot worse. But
right, with some of those delays, that the game is not shaping up right or something. There's
or it could be some other larger issue.
Yeah.
But I think the in addition to needing to find new manufacturers and trying to push for North American manufacturing, obviously that causes some delay. But I think a lot of the extra time really just came from development, and we never really scaled back anything that we were doing. We definitely had moments where we could have said, let's cut a bunch of stuff so that we can get this done faster. But we didn't do that. We kept the game pretty massive, and didn't really.
Yeah, I may be scoped too big. I was so worried about the valley. I was telling Andrew this the other day. I was so worried about the valley being too small, and like not fulfilling the promise of the open world, that I really worked to make it big. And we definitely don't have the problem of it being too small right now.
This is very true. It's very true. And I think also, both mine and Fisher's experience when it comes to project management in particular, come from working in a much bigger company with a lot more resources, which equals people and money, than we have for this project. So, I think this process for us has been a really good exercise in recalibrating our brains to what we can accomplish in a certain time frame with the resources we do have. And I think it's really positive because we can still do a lot. we can still do a lot in a not incredible amount of time. So I think it's all been
definitely. And I think your comment on recalibrating is totally right. When you work in a environment like a large studio, to your point, you have a lot of support structure, right? There's a lot of things you don't have to worry about because other people are helping kind of grease the wheels and make sure those things just happen. And so you have all that kind of little bits of support all around you. And when, it's just a few of us, we have to do everything. And so, our guts as to time estimation and how we block in a timeline and a schedule are kind of based on a lot of that, like, not invisible support structure, but assumed support structure. That's how our guts were tuned. But then when it comes down to it, that estimation of when you're going to get something done might slip because of all the little random things that you wouldn't have had to do at a larger company that you have to do at a smaller one, just to kind of keep everything else moving and support everything else. I've even run into that like this week, with like things that like, kind of get bumped day to day because all this other kind of support stuff kind of stacks on top of you. And so I think we've tuned in a lot of our kind of expectations with regards to that and how we're estimating our projects going forward.
All right. Next question comes from Matt. I like this question. It's a simple one. Hey, Earthborne team, can you show us some Shaper cards? Maybe just one.
Yes.
And what is a Shaper
No, answer
card?
to your question is no. Next question.
Classic.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
What is a shaper? Is
Yeah.
that what you asked, Anders?
Yeah.
Yeah, a shaper is a person in the setting who has the ability to alter reality to their with their will. So they have this. They're kind of like our settings wizards. We always kind of describe them as wizards or like space wizards.
So
we
Shaper
called them like really early on. Yeah.
So it's specific to
The
Earthborne.
kind of wizard has. Yes, it's specific
Okay.
to Earthborne. So these people, they spend decades practicing, studying, learning how to use this power because it's really, it's incredibly powerful and it's a really great responsibility to be able to affect reality so immediately. And during that time when they're studying at this place called the monastery, it's up on this peak that's on a mountain at the edge of the valley, and you have to climb this stair to get there, and then this number of stairs leading up to the monastery vary from person to person, so your journey to get there might be longer or shorter based on who you are. And there's some lore about it that we're still working on, but it's a weird place where weird stuff happens, where people like are just focused on this one task, like kind of like monks.
Mm-hmm.
And while they're there, they build these things called conduits, which are like staves. They're pieces of technology that allow them to channel their intention and then manifest reality however they'd like before them. So the shapers in the core set focus primarily on interacting with the challenge deck, so like changing the winds of fate, but they also have a lot of like other really cool powerful effects. So they're kind of I would say the advanced specialty. Like if you really want to get into put your fingers into the game and make a lot of crazy stuff happen, then this is for you.
For sure. Like our other three specialties, like, have kind of straightforward focuses. The explorer can travel very well and dodge things in the environment. Our conciliator can connect with people and creatures very well. The artificer is like builds this engine of stuff in front of them, and then the shaper just does all sorts of wild things. So it has a lot less of this like singularly defined archetype, and instead the shaper does like a bunch of wild effects that like an experienced player has to kind of learn how to use to their advantage. It's a very fun one to play, but it's definitely trickier.
Yeah. Okay, I'll share my screen here really quickly.
You're getting your wish, Matt. and why? I'm curious why Matt might be like excited about this. Is there, other than it's a cool card?
We haven't shown much of the Ranger cards at all, really.
Okay.
We haven't previewed any Ranger cards in any of the Kickstarter updates. I think the only place we've talked about them is on this podcast.
Have we really not previewed? I think
No.
I shared one or two when I was leaking stuff to the Discord, but yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in there to share. It's also like imagine, like it's the magic user, right? It's the wildest specialty, and we haven't shared much about it, so I can definitely see why Matt is curious.
Yeah. Well, pretty soon you'll be able to see every card in the game. So you just wait a little while longer, and everything will be before you. So yeah, since I wasn't on the podcast last time, we'll use this as these are a couple of my favorite Shaper cards. So this first one here is called Seen Through Cycles. It is so you see there it says manifestation. So most of the Shaper cards, not all of them, but the vast majority of them are these manifestations where you need, in order to play them, you have to pay the energy cost at the top, but you also need to play a token from a conduit, which is that staff that I told you about. So they're a little bit more cumbersome to use, but the effects are more powerful. So this one allows you to choose a being in play and shuffle it into the path deck, and then search the path deck and discard for a being and put it into play. So you can take any being that's in play and swap it out for something that's more preferable to you, which is pretty awesome. This really combines two effects that in most cases would be a single card themselves. It lets you double duty to get rid of something that might be threatening you, and then bring in something that's beneficial, which is pretty cool.
I have to say that I really enjoyed, of all the moments, I enjoyed working with Wayne on these ones for the Shapers, because they're just a step further with how we're envisioning the moments and what you can express in them, and in a unique way. So
yeah, they're really cool. I think you're right. He did an amazing job with these. I think they're very imaginative. And then the other card I thought I'd share is a conduit. There are 4 conduits in the core set. Each of them is a max stat required. So you'll be picking one of these 4 cards for your Shaper based on your high aspect value. So this is the one you'd pick if you were a 3 fitness Shaper, which is pretty awesome. So it says response, after you succeed at a traverse test, add 1 stride to this conduit, and then you can exhaust it and use X strides to add X progress to a trail. This is incredibly handy. So like if you want to be a Shaper who can get around the valley quickly and easily, this is the conduit for you. These so Fisher, can you talk a little bit about the like what went into adding these extra benefits to the conduits?
Yeah, definitely. So to kind of explain, as you saw, the other card had the manifestation keyword, and so anything with a manifestation keyword requires you to spend a token off of a conduit to play it. So it's kind of this extra cost, and each of our conduits acquires tokens in different ways. This one is very straightforward. Some of our other ones get a little more tricky to use, we'll say. Some of them require you to look into the future a bit personally. And so you kind of accrue these tokens in different ways, and then you can use them to play your manifestations. So it's kind of like, it's part of how we justify the extra power level of those manifestations, is kind of this extra cost, this extra card count that's dedicated to kind of like setting up these abilities. And so it enables us to kind of play in a more powerful space than a lot of other things do. However, Shaper is a specialty, and so is only part of your deck. It's only, like 5 cards, 6 if you also double down on your outside interest into here. And so, like, it's still only a certain percentage of your deck. You might be able to get a couple more manifestations through rewards, but it's never going to be 100% of your cards. And so because of that, these conduits are kind of this double-edged sword of they can often not have anything to put their tokens into. You could be playing the little mini game to charge up your conduit, but then you don't have a manifestation for this moment. And so we really had during playtesting a lot of kind of feast or famine with these conduits, where oftentimes, when the shaper was awesome, they were really awesome, but then there were a lot of kind of downtimes where they were kind of doing all of their fiddly maintenance, but not really engaging in what made a shaper cool. So this was during playtesting, and we kind of found that it wasn't quite working, and we knew we wanted to make the shapers feel cool and powerful, and we know, obviously we want all of our different archetypes to be interesting to play the vast majority of the time instead of just moment to moment. And so during playtesting, we kind of iterated on a few different versions of conduits, and we eventually landed on this approach where we kind of have each conduit play a little mini game where you have some kind of default outlet for the tokens on your conduit, and some of them are pretty powerful. And it's not going to rival the Staff of the Wanderer here is not going to rival an explorer's output as far as putting progress onto trails or other features. The explorer is just going to be better at it, but this shaper can kind of channel these resources into it, and this kind of creates this interesting balance where you can kind of have this focus that you're somewhat good at, but you have to kind of balance that against your desire to use your manifestations, and you constantly have this little push and pull of this resource management game on your conduit. And this ended up feeling pretty good in our testing, and so we ended up going with this direction. It made the shaper feel engaged at all times, but still have those big, powerful high highs when they pull off some cool tricks with their manifestations.
Yeah, I can verify it's fun to do.
The one other thing about the card, it has you may have noticed it has the setup keyword. For those of you listening on Spotify or something, it had a keyword called setup in addition to its conduit keyword. Setup is a keyword that lets you, I guess, well, it's too late. I'm going to spoil it. I don't know if you were planning on leaving it a mystery, but I'm going to talk about it. You can, at the start of each game, you can search through your deck for one card with setup and put it into play. And so you can ensure that you get your conduit into play and kind of start your engine rolling. So you're not going to have to constantly build your deck around making sure you have your conduit out. You can reliably get it out. And the deck and the cards are kind of tuned around the fact that you can do that. We use the setup keyword in a few different places. At least one reward, which I won't spoil here, but it's kind of a nice tool for us to do some effects that we need a reliability on the campaign level that the Ranger decks can't otherwise provide.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew, are you okay with him saying that? You look nervous.
Yeah, I guess we can cut it.
Well, no, I was prepared for something like big and splashy, but then it was just no. Let me tell you about how setup works.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. There's cards in this game.
Yep.
Yeah, that's okay.
I think it's cool because it reminds me of all the times playing D&D 3.5 at lunch when we were all at FFG. We would go into an encounter and I didn't have my sword drawn beforehand, so I'd have to waste a whole action drawing my sword. It was such a pain in the ass. So annoying.
That's a quick action now.
Yeah, but in 3.5 you could only do it by staying in place or taking a 5-foot movement or something. It was really annoying. So I had to just walk around I have my sword drawn, okay. We're in a dungeon, I have my sword drawn. Just make sure
Well, I'd advise against playing our Artificer then, Evan, because a lot of playing our Artificer is gearing up, and like, where did I put that belt pouch? Dang it.
Well, I did start to enjoy that when I played as Iron Man in Marvel Champions. I loved getting all this pieces of armor equipped and ready to go. That was a very satisfying thing. I suppose he's like the artificer of Champions, isn't he?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, swell. Our final question comes from Rover on Kickstarter. The campaign made several commitments to recyclable and biodegradable materials across all components, but this seems compromised now, even considering the environmental benefits touted by Ludofact. Could you clarify which aspects of the project are still trying to meet this goal?
Yes. So, for your edification, Anders, Ludofact is the factory that we are printing with in
Okay.
Germany.
I see.
And so we're not compromising on any of the materials that we discussed in the Kickstarter, and this is the whole point of going to Ludofact in Germany, is that they'll be able to make it to our specifications, where we could not find a manufacturer in the United States or North America that could do that in any reasonable amount of time. So everything that we talked about on the Kickstarter, as far as the core set goes, is still true. All the paper is FSC certified, which is, everything in the game. So for the box, the cards, the rule books, the punch board, all 100% FSC certified. Everything is also coated in a dispersion coating, which is a water-based coating, as opposed to like a petrol-based like UV coating, which makes everything more recyclable. We're also not using any cord cards. So we talked about cores on a couple of the episodes, I think, which is that adhesive that goes in between two pieces of paper. It's usually black. It's on playing cards. That also makes it so that you can't recycle cards. So it doesn't have that. So it's 100% recyclable. So everything should be 100% recyclable / compostable. Just like we promised. There's no plastic in the product at all. We're all everything's paper. The one place where we might have a tiny bit of plastic is we will likely have a sticker that seals the box, just to keep it in place. We talked about maybe doing like a paper sleeve around the box itself. We'll see, but it's probably going to be a little sticker. So I guess technically speaking, we'll have like two pieces of plastic, maybe this big total in the entire game, that are just going to be those stickers. But everything else is exactly how we described it in the Kickstarter. And that's the whole point of going to Germany. If we had gone to a U.S. manufacturer, a couple of them would have been able to do it this year still. But in order to do that, we would have had to compromise on pretty much everything. We wouldn't have been able to do any of the card stock we wanted to do. None of it would have been FSC. Probably would have been black core. It would have been a much more compromised production. And that's really what made me ultimately decide to just do everything in Europe, because that was the one place where we could do it to the actual specifications we talked about on the Kickstarter. And while we reached a stretch goal to do manufacturing in the United States, it wasn't part of the initial vision for it. It was a stretch goal. It was a hope that we reached, and it was really it really stinks that we weren't able to do that, especially since we were able to achieve that in the United States. I was not happy with not being able to follow through with that at all. But in the end, I felt like the benefits of manufacturing sustainably with sustainable materials outweighed doing a non-sustainable production in the United States, especially since we're manufacturing in Europe. And like I talked about in the Kickstarter demo, or Kickstarter, not Kickstarter demo, the Kickstarter update, most recent one. Ludofact, if they were in the U.S., they'd be perfect, because they're doing everything that I wanted a manufacturer to do. Their factory is 100% solar powered, which is awesome to me. That's just like icing on the cake. But they also source all of their material regionally. So all the paper that they're getting, all the paper that's going to be in this product, will have come from only a few kilometers away from the factory itself. And a lot of our copies are staying in Europe. So I think, especially when you factor in our foreign partners, I think in the end, we'll actually have more copies of the game staying in Europe than we will have shipped out. So in some ways, it's still kind of fulfilling that ideal of manufacturing in the region of sale, which is something I talked about prior to the Kickstarter. That's still a goal of mine. And it's not perfectly in the region of sale because we're still going to have to ship some stuff across the ocean to the States. But the majority of that product is going to be staying on in Europe. So that's a good thing. It's much better than it coming from China for sure.
Yeah, we're shipping over a much smaller ocean than if we had moved the production to China.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing that stinks though is, China and Germany are like the only, like they can do FSC, right? China can do FSC. Like that, there are multiple factories that have reached out to me from China that have talked about their FSC capabilities. You always have to take that with a bit of a grain of salt. I think I feel like I've talked about this before. You never quite know with a Chinese factory how honest of a presentation you're getting, because you can't necessarily go there and check it out or like look at any of their papers or anything. And I've had plenty of personal experience with Chinese factories who have said they were doing a thing that weren't actually doing a thing that we'd find years later.
Yeah.
So I feel much more comfortable going with Ludifact, and seeing all their certifications, and then all of their all the initiatives that they're taking to be more ecologically minded just on their own. They align really well with Earthborne's vision and our values. So I'm pretty happy with it. Minus the fact that we're not going to be printing in the States this time around. I'm really happy. We couldn't have asked for a better partner unless they were located here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. I thought Fisher maybe had something to say, but
I have a mosquito flying around
You're
me
winding
that I really want to crush, but
I know I've got a fly in my face here. Got insect problems, people. Anyway, thank you for your questions, everybody. We appreciate them and keep sending them in. We answer them all. Let's talk a little bit about what's been keeping you guys busy at the office. Who's going to go first tonight? Do we start with Evan? I think it's Evan's turn to talk. No?
Sure.
Yeah, we can start with Evan.
Sure.
Take it away.
I'm going to sound like a broken record, but it's just art stuff. But unlike last week when I said 2 weeks ago, sorry, when I was saying almost all the art was in, and that the next step would be treating all the art for the Adobe InDesign files, which are how we're sort of laying out these cards and delivering to the factory. All the art is in now, and I've completed.
Hey.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I know it's insane.
yeah.
You're gonna add that in. You're gonna add that in along with the music. But I'm almost done with all the art treatment too, which is a time-consuming process. It pretty much took me all last week for the most part. So I think the next step is there's a few outstanding. I mean, there's a few pieces that I have to touch up, and then I'll drop those I'll put those through the treatment process, and then we're gonna hopefully, Fisher, you can find some time to generate another round of cards.
Yeah. Export all the cards with their final art in them. Yeah, that'll be awesome.
And then there'll be like probably a sanity check where we just all go through those cards, what they're the digital versions of what will be handed off to the digital versions go to the factory, but we'll be seeing as close to the final product as possible. And we can make some last minute adjustments to the art and how it interacts with the card frames and stuff, because I don't know if I know that some people on Discord have noticed that the card art breaks out of the card frames on occasion, which is kind of a fun thing to do. That doesn't happen too often, I guess, in card games. So
because it's so much more work to do it that way.
I know it's fun though. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very time intensive, right? To like figure out how it's going to break frame and like make
Mhm.
sure it's not interfering with any text and everything.
Yeah, and
But it
doubly
looks so
so.
good. It
Well,
looks so good.
I remember seeing a new iteration of the path cards and seeing that the art window gained or lost a line or two of text, and being like, well, that changes the pop out, and having to revisit, which is fine, totally fine, but you know, um, but I think it's worth it. Makes it very dynamic looking and cool. So shortly after those few tasks I have lined up this week, I'm going to move into some more graphic design stuff. I'll be working on the graphical layout of the packaging for the Ranger Doubler package, which Andrew and I already spoke of this morning, and I have a pretty solid idea of the direction I want to go, and I'm looking forward to jumping into that. It's always fun changing gears and from art to graphic design. Not in the moment, not like when I'm doing art and then have to jump to graphic design, but to just close the chapter of art and then move on to graphic design is something that I always look forward to. So yeah,
Yeah, it's
what's
pretty
going on?
exciting.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we took a while to land on the packaging for the card doubler, because I was hoping that Ludo would have like a pre-made box tool that would work really well for it, or we could do like something really simple, like just like a corrugated thing that was, you know, not super fancy but was functional. But they didn't have any of that stuff. So in the end, it's going to be almost like it was, like the same kind of form factor as it was during the Kickstarter. So just a standard box.
Yes, Fisher. Fisher, I keep looking at you. It looks like you're winding up to say something, and I wait, and then
don't look at my face.
okay.
Don't look at
Well,
my face, Anders.
well,
Is that-
do you want to talk about what you've been busy with?
Yeah. Hey, you good, Evan?
Oh yeah,
yeah. I'm that. I was gonna say that's like the equivalent of the older brother winding up like they're gonna punch the younger brother. Like, oh,
I was kind of holding up my hand in a fist.
Yeah. It just, I think like 4 times so far, I've looked at you and you're like you're about to say something.
All right, I'll keep a very straight face now.
So that's the explanation for the awkward silences previous. There's been about 4 of them so far.
It's all Fisher's face's fault.
Well, a little bit my fault. It's a 50-50.
Just don't look at me.
Okay.
All right.
Move on to you.
My work. Yeah, I've been doing all sorts of stuff. Probably the thing that's been taking up the most of my time is actually translation stuff. I'm not doing the translation myself. Our partners are all translating, which, you know, in an ideal world, we were talking earlier about all sorts of tasks like that kind of creep in and add to time. And in an ideal world, you know, like you send off the game and people translate it and they're doing all the work. And, you know, like there's foreign language versions of your game. But in actuality, there's a bunch of stuff we have to do as they're kind of doing their translations. So it's a lot more work than you might think. You know, you have all these different people who are all in your game files, all kind of like reading through, interpreting different effects, and asking questions and like trying to figure out, you know, like how is this keyword intended to be used in the future? Like, you know, an English word might be perfect for how we want to use it going forward, but that same word translated into German might not, you know, like I think one of the questions today was about a keyword where, you know, it's only currently used on beings, and they were asking, will this be used on features in the future? And because like if we translate it into this word in German and it's used on a feature, it'll be really weird because just that word doesn't quite frame the same as it does in English. And so a lot of questions like that about future intentions, about intentions behind things, about world building information. So we're spending a lot of time, you know, like working with the partners to make sure that they're translating the game in the best way possible. The other thing about the translation that's a bit unique from some other projects is that we're able to do the translation now before the English project is at the printer. You know, a lot of like games will be published, printed, and then people will localize them. So they're kind of set in stone. They're already this kind of fixed product, and then people translate it. So we have people working on it, well before we've sent it the English copies to the printer. And so this is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it's really awesome because people translating the game do a incredibly thorough job of reading through everything and understanding every little minutia about your game. They have to translate it properly, right? They go through with this fine-tooth comb way more than most playtesters might, and they have a deeper understanding of rules and the execution of the game than like a proofreader might, because they have to translate all of the rules and understand how they're all interrelating. And so they actually do give your game a very thorough going through, and can actually catch a lot of things and find a lot of things, and it enables us, if they're doing it while we still are working on the game, to make fixes and improvements based on the things they find. The double-edged sword comes in if you fix and change something based on the translator's feedback, and many different people are translating it. Everybody needs to be aware of this change, so it creates a lot of tracking and organization, as you have to make sure that any changes to the game are reflected and run by everybody else so that everybody's version of the game stays the same. So this kind of management work ends up being quite a bit of time, just kind of juggling all of this organization to get the game translated and also, benefit from it, in this case, improve the game as we're kind of coming to the finish line. So that's been a bunch of time doing translation stuff.
I love that channel though on our Discord.
Yeah,
it's really fun. I mean, I've only answered you answer the bulk of the things, but I've been able to get in there and answer a couple of them. But I just love seeing everyone working together and getting this thing done. It's really cool, and I think the conversations in there have been fantastic and incredibly helpful.
Yeah, we threw all of our partners together in a Discord channel so that we can all talk about questions together. So, if we were kind of independently working with everybody, I might have to answer the same question, for every partner we're working with. But instead, by putting them together, they can kind of collaborate, and one person can ask a question, I can answer it, and then other partners can take the insights from that. And so that has been really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Though the time difference is killing me a little, because most of our partners are in Europe, and so they start working, and it's like the middle of the night for us.
Mm-hmm.
And I get up to bring the dog out to pee at like 5 a.m., 4 a.m., somewhere in there. And I take my phone with me because your aforementioned phone on the nightstand, and I'll start reading partner questions. And when I'm going to go back to bed, and then my brain goes into work mode.
Oh no!
So
resist.
I know.
You need to resist that.
I need to resist until I get to my desk in the morning.
Mm-hmm. You need that sleep.
But there are nice things to the offset when you're working with people in a different time zone, because there only being a certain overlap means that you have to focus your communication in that time, and you both get time to just kind of work on your own thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of cordons your overlap to a distinct period of time, which can be kind of nice.
Yeah, that's cool.
But anyway, other stuff I'm working on is Brooks, who did a lot of the development for the core set, as well as kind of our first expansion, has gotten other job opportunities and won't be able to do as much work on Rangers. And so we've been kind of working on bringing some new people on and training up some new developers to work on Rangers. So I've been kind of working with our newer developers, getting them kind of used to the game, and starting on early concepts with them as they kind of pick up some of our expansion work. So that's been really fun. Getting fresh minds on it is always cool. There's always the challenges of finding new people that it's rare that somebody's experience set is going to perfectly cover the thing that you need. But somebody might have just an amazingly deep experience set in one element of your project that they can bring this perspective that your team didn't have otherwise to it. And so it's always very fun to kind of bring somebody on, help them kind of figure out the stuff they don't know, and then see like benefit from their kind of deep well of knowledge and what they might bring to the project that you wouldn't have. So it's been cool to onboard some people. We'll maybe be able to talk about more specifics as we kind of dive into that work, but I've been kind of working on that. Last thing is getting the lore book ready for everybody. I'm sorry, Andrew, I still haven't fully laid it out.
No, that's okay.
See previous things about other tasks creeping into your.
Well, you know, we have a
schedule.
couple weeks. We still have a couple weeks to finish laying it out, so everything's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah. Like I said, I think it's going to go really fast.
Oh yeah. No, I'm not worried. I'm excited to get to it. Like I mentioned earlier, I finally put together a to-do list, like handwritten, everything that's been in my brain that's just kind of been like clogging the pipes. Man, I don't know what it's like. It's like, I think we've talked about this before, you know, how like the things that are good for you, oftentimes there's like this internal resistance that is kind of inexplicable, where I'll be like sitting around thinking, oh man, I really should make that to-do list because that would really be helpful. And then there's a part of me that's like, nah, it's fine. You know everything you need to do. Don't worry about it. And then there's a day and I wake up and like, oh, what was that thing? And I don't remember. Like, oh, shit. What was it? I hope it wasn't important. So anyway, my to-do list is massive. It is massive.
Oh yeah.
So I have plenty of things to do, but I do have the art book. I do have the art and lore book on here as one of my higher priority items. So I'm looking forward to doing it.
It's on the list. We'll get there. You've seen, speaking of to-do lists, you've seen mine. You've seen the Notion board.
Yours is awesome, though. It's so organized and thoughtful. Like, I love your approach. I don't know if you talked about it on this podcast before. Would you be willing to share your ritual, which I think is great? I'd love to get to that point personally.
I probably could share it at one point. Maybe I'll think about doing that next week. I need to go through and pull out spoilers, and I have my personal stuff is all in there too. So I can prep some information to show off. But I have a very comprehensive personal organization system that I use Notion for. So yeah, maybe I can talk about that next podcast. So tune in for super exciting Notion boards.
To-do lists.
I'm sure there are some people that would eagerly await that.
Yeah, I think so.
It's a pretty good system.
I researched it. I researched it from all sorts of people on YouTube who had millions of views. So clearly somebody is interested in it.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Have you, Fisher? Have you heard of the HBO Max show The Rehearsal?
Is this the Nathan for you? Is this?
Didn't we talk about it?
Oh, did you?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I think Anders brought it up, right?
Okay.
Maybe you weren't on that week. Yeah.
Megan and I just started watching it, and I was reminded of that show. There's an aspect to it that makes me curious about what your setup is like, because
I think because it's so meticulous.
Yeah, he has these. I don't know. They look like nodes connecting to each other for different branching paths of processes or like interactions with people. So.
Oh right.
Interesting.
Never mind.
Maybe not.
It's
maybe
really
not
good
quite
show.
That far.
It's a really good show.
It's amazing. It's an amazing show.
Anyway, for my that covers a lot of things I'm doing. I'm doing a bunch of other stuff, but those are the highlights. That's what I've been up to lately.
Sounds wonderful. Andrew.
Yes.
Navarro, what have you been doing?
You know what, man? I was trying to think when I was writing this list. I was like, what have I done this past like week and a half since I've been back? And it's a blur, as usual. But yeah, we're just putting the finishing touches on things. So I have a bunch of little notes of like things I want to try to do before this game goes out the door. Tiny little things that are very much nice to haves, as software developers will say. When you're looking at your list of features, there are a lot of nice to haves, but definitely not necessary. but I've been kind of playing around with some of those things. I've been finalizing quotes with manufacturers, so that's been really exciting. So we're finalizing everything with Ludifact, and should have a purchase order from them very, very soon, which is super exciting. And we have all the manufacturers lined up for all of our other for all the add-ons, which is great. I don't think I've really talked very much about what all of our manufacturers are for those. But we have a pretty awesome manufacturer for the energy tokens, for the deluxe tokens in Germany. It is like this small company. They are they're not FSC certified, but they're the German equivalent of FSC certification. And they're like a really, really small operation. So that's really cool. That's pretty much ready to go. Obviously, we have our pewter miniatures, which that's been set for the longest time, and we'll be. I just got a message today saying that we have updated samples coming, which is very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Our art book manufacturer is in Lithuania. We had a couple quotes for the art book, both from a Lithuanian factory and one in the UK. The Lithuanian one was much more affordable, also still 100% FSC certified. And I should be getting samples soon of the playmats. And the playmats, that is a North American company. So we got one thing at the very least in the US, and that is our playmats. So yeah, getting all that stuff finalized. That's pretty exciting. And I met yesterday on it was a holiday in the States for our international listeners. It's Labor Day, which is a day, a celebration of the worker. A lot of people still work on Labor Day, though. Most people still work on Labor Day, I think, especially in like retail jobs and food service.
Yeah, especially the people who are doing the most laborious work.
Yeah. So, well, as my high school football coach once said, it's Labor Day. That means we're going to labor.
Oh, yeah, makes sense.
Womp womp.
Yeah. Thanks, Coach. But I met with Corey yesterday, and we talked about our marketing plan over the next several months, and we're putting together a roadmap for the pre-order store, and then all of our previews and content that will be showing on the website between now and when the game launches. So that was pretty cool to start laying that groundwork finally. Because Corey's been, we brought Corey on to help with the website and with the marketing, and he spent the first few months of his employment just helping with the art, which has been great, and helping with the renders. He's a very talented artist and digital sculptor, so he has a lot to bring to the table. So we definitely took advantage of that. But now that work is done, we're shifting gears to promotional things. So we finally have a plan for getting the pre-order store launched, which I'll talk about with you guys on Thursday. Corey's going to bring the calendar, and we'll talk about it. So you guys have any thing you want to add to it?
Sweet.
But yeah, I'm hoping that we will be launching the pre-order store at the end of this month. So those of you who are listening who are waiting for that, stay tuned. It should be very soon.
Sweet.
Yeah. So that's all I've got.
Wonderful. You guys are doing a great job.
Thanks, Anders.
Thanks, Anders.
I do appreciate
you too,
that.
buddy. Did you see the comments? There were YouTube comments last time talking about
there was some
things they liked about you.
Oh, were there?
There are a couple.
Yeah.
Nice.
I appreciated them a lot. Thank you to those two people. I thanked you in the comments, so you already know.
I mean, it sounds like
But
you
I was
could just have I was going to say you could have a podcast in addition to this where you just talk about all the indie games you're playing.
That's true. There's a guy.
Yeah, side channel.
who said he appreciated my game recommendations. and I'm curious which ones he's played. He's gonna love. I don't know if he'll be able to play the one that I want to talk about tonight in our next segment, about what we're into. I didn't think I had anything to share because I haven't really been playing anything new. But then I remembered when I was in Oregon, we went down to Seaside, and Seaside is kind of a Jersey Shore kind of boardwalky kind of town. You know, a bunch of that kind of thing, Coney Island looking place.
Okay.
She's like, hey, let's go in here. Let's go in this. Oh, let's go in this room right here. And we went into this arcade. It was like an offshoot of the arcade, and it was just this. The whole room was lined with these games. It's not skee ball. It's like a countertop where you sit on a stool. It's called Fascination. I think it's from like the 1920s. It felt like a really well maintained old game from the 20s, but it's maybe like 40 tables where you can sit down, and you roll this little rubber ball down the alley. Is that what you'd call it? So you call it the lane. You roll it down the lane, and you there's maybe 25 holes in a grid, and you have to. And when you get the ball into a hole, it'll light up a light on the board. You have to get 5 in a row, and you're competing against everybody in the room. So everybody's playing at once. It's a quarter. You just set a quarter down next to you, and they walk around and they collect your quarter as you're playing. And the round is over when somebody gets 5 in a row. And it was at first, and there's like a little ramp you have to get the ball over, which kind of makes it a little more luck based, because you can't really. I think you're muted, Andrew. You can't. I mean, I think there was a guy who was like winning every game, so there's got to be some kind of skill involved. But as it went on, I was kind of watching him, like, oh, you got to kind of roll it a little slower. And once I started figuring out the method, it got really, really addicting and fun. And it's just kind of like relaxing. You're just sitting there with your buds. It's only a quarter around, and
it looks amazing.
Yeah, it's like
it looks really,
it's like
really cool.
Skee ball meets bingo, kind of.
Yeah, or like tic-tac-toe almost.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's only like 6 of these left in the country. 6 of these little parlors, I guess.
Wow, that looks great. I think they should bring it back. I'd love to play it. Is there is there any Fascination parlor
around here
near us?
I don't know.
Maybe Can Wonderland? That they get a lot of old.
Yeah, they don't have
stuff.
it. It definitely is a relic of, pre 1950. It felt like, but really well maintained. Like it was so nice. It was cool.
The images on the internet are really nice. It looks really cool. I wonder if that's your where you were.
Seaside. Yeah. If you're in Seaside, check it out.
Yeah, when you Google it, Seaside comes right up. It's like one of the first results. So it's pretty rare.
My sister
There's one in Pennsylvania too.
Okay. I don't know. Probably similar distance from here. She's not really into that kind of thing, so she was just like, oh, this is kind of fun. But I was like, whoa, this is a hidden treasure.
Yeah.
It was super cool. So yeah,
that's great.
Good stuff. Evan, your turn.
Oh, are we in the stuff we're doing?
Stuff we're doing.
Okay.
I forgot to mention. I forgot to segue into it. I just kind of started talking.
I'm like you, Anders. I'm not really doing a whole heck of a lot. I don't have time, but I have been meaning to watch the Light and Magic, that Disney Plus series about the formation of ILM, Industrial Light and Magic. And it's really cool. I really enjoy it. I've always loved the peeking behind the curtain of how things are made. It's basically I'm only 3 or 4 episodes in, and it has covered how George Lucas pulled together a team of people to like produce and make Star Wars and then Empire Strikes Back, and how they sort of blazed the trail in the technology and special effects and stop motion and stuff like that. And it really reminded me of back in the day when I used to go to the library with my mom when I was a kid, and I would get the same book over and over and over. It was just this horror movie behind the scenes, the making of all these horror movies like The Mummy and Creature from the Black Lagoon, and they would show production photos of the guy getting in and out of his Creature from the Black Lagoon costume, and it was so fascinating. And I think it's this. I like all that stuff for the same reason I like illustrating, working in Photoshop, and making stuff in Blender. It's kind of like doing magic, you know. It's really fun. And
Yeah.
there was in an alternate universe, I would have gone after high school to California to. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Tom Savini. He's like a horror movie makeup artist. He's ubiquitous. He worked on Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead and countless other horror movies, doing cool special effects and makeup and stuff. And
Yeah.
that was always a supreme interest of mine. I had a cousin. He and I were just obsessed with.
So you were going to go out there and apprentice with him?
Yeah, I mean, well, he has a school, so.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Tom Savini's school for makeup or something. And I always wanted to go, but I wasn't bold enough to.
It's never too late.
Take
man.
the first step. Yeah, I know. Well, it's so cool when you look at pictures. These people are making busts of creatures to make latex masks and things. It's so cool.
Isn't there like a reality competition show?
There was
like that?
Yeah,
there was something like that.
Yeah.
Who's the most famous makeup guy? You know,
Tom Savini.
Something
I think.
creature. Isn't there someone else? Another name?
Maybe, well, there probably is.
Somebody's creature workshop or something. Is that Jim Henson? I don't know. No, it's not. I'm gonna figure it out. Keep talking.
Oh yeah, so that's something that I've been into. The other thing that I'm really into that I haven't done in a long time, but I will tomorrow, is play a game called Tichu, which is a 4-player. Yeah.
Nice.
It's a 4-player trick-taking game. I think it's similar to Bridge. Is that what is Bridge like Tichu, or
kind of like euchre? Kind of like more like euchre.
Yeah.
Well, Tichu is basically
Or
Presidents
Spades.
and Assholes. If you ever played the Presidents and Assholes.
Oh yeah.
Well, I don't know. Is it really? I guess. I'm not sure.
Yeah. It's pretty
okay.
similar, but
Well,
like
now
it has all the special cards. So it's basically like P&A, but you add in all the like special cards to it.
Okay, well, now you're making it sound like I'm gonna go to some college party.
Yeah, get all drunk.
Game.
No, Tichu is amazing.
Yeah, Teacher's great. But I'm meeting up with some old coworkers of ours. If you guys remember Preston Stone,
Yeah.
who was an art director at FFG. He's
Cool
currently
name.
he's
Preston stuff.
He's staying with Corey right now.
yeah. Oh, is he really?
Yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Oh, so he's an art director, I believe, at Atomic Mass Games.
Yep.
And he and Caitlin Ginther, who is a graphic designer at FFG, and Chris Beck, who just started working at Chip Theory as a graphic designer. We're all getting together, and we're going to play Tichu like we did in the old days, pre-COVID,
Sweet.
at the office during lunch. So, yeah.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
Tichu was huge at FFG like years and years ago. We had a whole Tichu tournament.
I won.
You
yeah.
won?
Yeah, John.
Oh wow!
Taylor and
I washed
we-
out. I washed out like right in the beginning.
Oh, it's so great. I love it.
Yeah, I only played a couple of times. I remember I played once with Chris, and I remember thoroughly irritating him, Chris Beck, because I didn't really know what to do, and he's like, "Oh, why would you do, why would you
Yeah.
ever play that thing?" I'm like, "Man, I don't know. Like, I'm just learning this game." That game got very intense.
That reminds me of that.
People took it very seriously.
I used to deliver pizzas in college and in my hometown, and my brother's friends ordered a pizza, and I delivered it to them, and they were playing poker, and they invited me to play poker with them after my shift ended. So I don't play cards other than Tichu. I know next to nothing about poker, and I decided to show up just for fun, and I was making all these bad calls and winning, and they were getting so mad at me because I didn't know what I was doing. but
Uh-huh.
because they couldn't
Yeah.
read me, I guess, because I wasn't making
Yeah.
logical decisions.
Exactly. Exactly.
Turn it into a game of chance.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
yeah. So that's what I'm very much looking forward to that tomorrow.
That's awesome. Are you going to the game center? Are you going to do it like are they going to ask Strange Stars guys to let you go
No.
into the office and do it in their atrium?
I would definitely go to the center, but I think we're gonna meet at Lake Monster outside
nice.
Lake Monster Brewing. So
Oh yeah,
Sweet.
which is pretty
Awesome.
close to our place over
yeah.
there.
It's just down the street, really.
Yep.
Down University.
I'll give them all my best.
I will.
Me too. All right. Andrew, what have you been into?
Yeah, well, so speaking of reunions, we did our fantasy football league drafts this past weekend. And,
Oh, you still doing Nate's
yeah,
fantasy football league? Okay, yeah.
Yep. So, I've been in a couple FFG centered the fantasy football leagues for a very long time, like maybe 14 years, 15 years, and. One of the leagues I had left for a while because we changed formats, and we went from a snake draft to an auction format. I don't know if you guys are familiar with fantasy football, but snake draft is like a typical. It's like a like you draft a collectible card game. You just kind of just go down the row. Just you're passing. Everyone gets a turn to pick something, and then you get to the end. You bring it all the way back around. In auction, you put up a player for auction, and then everyone bids on it, and you have a budget, a certain amount of money you can spend on players. You need to make sure you have enough money to get everybody.
Yeah,
And
I love auction.
Well, the first couple times I played auction, I did horribly. And that league had the most expensive buy-in. So it was like a couple of years where I was just like, why don't I just give you the money and then I won't play instead of wasting all of our time. So I got out of it for a while, but while I was in South Dakota, Nate sent me a text and asked me if I'd be interested in getting back into that league. And thought about it for a few days. I thought about it a little bit more. I'm like, all right. Then I sent him a text like, hey, did you find anybody? He's like, no, we haven't. And I'm like, all right, I'm in. So that was really fun. So yeah, on Saturday we drafted for one league, and then on Sunday we drafted for another. The auction was on Sunday. And it was great seeing Nate again, and Lucas Litzinger came into town. He's in the leagues also.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so that was cool. He came into town last year too, so it was really great to see Lucas again. He's seems like he's doing really well out there. He works at Wizards of the Coast. He's working on Magic right now, and he did the latest digital release that came out a couple months ago. What's the name of it again?
I was just Googling it. I actually don't remember.
Yeah, he was lamenting the lack of marketing support that
I know
they
it
got.
just kind of like dropped out of nowhere, right?
Yeah, but apparently their numbers are looking pretty good. So he was feeling pretty good about it. But obviously that game took a lot longer to complete than they originally anticipated. But it was great to see him. And then also Mercedes was there. She was our auctioneer on Sunday.
Oh, cool.
Mercedes is a graphic designer at she's now the manager of the graphic design department at FFG. So she was our auctioneer. That was a lot of fun. Tony Deppner was there too. I don't know if you guys know him. Evan Kinney and a couple other guys from the warehouse. So that was really great. So spent a lot of time at Buffalo Wild Wings. A lot of wings.
How do you feel about the team you ended up with? Do you feel like you made good decisions?
My Saturday team was bad. I felt like I drafted really poorly. I was in the 6th spot. I didn't really have a good strategy going in. I wasn't really feeling it. But Sunday in the auction, I really liked the team I came out with. I drafted like really a completely different team almost from my Saturday team. I got my Packers on both teams. As requirements.
Who did you pay the most money for? Do you remember who?
I paid
was
the most
your most expensive player.
I think Jamar Chase was my most expensive player. He's a wide receiver for the Bengals. He had a really huge breakout season last year. So we'll see if he can replicate that. He does play for the Bengals though, so it felt a little bit weird about paying that much money for a Bengal, but have to recalibrate my expectations for the Bengals since they got to the Super Bowl last year. But yeah, I feel really good about that team. I just like it's been a while since I felt good about a team, so we'll see if that pays off. I haven't won a league in a couple of years, so I was on a pretty good roll. I won like 3 out of 4 years, and then I haven't won for the last couple.
Dang.
So yeah, so I'm primed for a comeback this year. And then last few days I've been listening a lot to the new Megadeth album, which came out a couple days ago, called "The Sick, the Dying, and the Dead." It is it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Uh-huh.
I put it solidly in the middle of their catalog. They have a couple pretty awesome songs on there. And
is this like a return, or have they been solidly putting out music?
It's been 2016 was the last album they put out, so it's been a hot minute. But Dave Mustaine, the lead guy, he had cancer in the middle there, so and throat cancer on top of that.
Wow.
So yeah, the fact that he can, still vocalize at all is pretty awesome. His voice does sound a little bit tired, a little bit more tired, but what's that?
Does he do the high metal voice?
No, it's more like the kind of
okay. Yeah,
like
yeah.
he does. It's a little bit more melodic. Like it's funny. My kids are so used to metal that when I was playing this in the car, my son Sam was like, "His game." He's like, "I wish his voice was a little more goblin-y." But back in the day, like his voice was one of the more extreme voices, but it's become, I think, kind of a more kind of acceptable, this is all right to listen to metal voice. They're one of the most popular metal bands of all time, so there's obviously a little bit of crossover there. But I think it's pretty cool album. A couple of pretty awesome songs on there. So if I definitely recommend people check it out.
Awesome.
That's all I've been doing. I've been reading a little bit more of Fellowship of the Ring too. That's been fun. I kind of dove back into that.
Oh, cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great one. How do you feel about always being the end, Andrew?
Great.
Close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I never got to talk.
Oh, you never talked yet? Oh, I'm sorry. my
Hey!
friend.
I thought you did.
I thought. Oh yeah.
About stuff we're into?
I went to Evan and then I went to Fisher.
Yeah.
Usually we end on
No,
Andrew.
fine.
That's why.
I don't want to go now. That's fine.
Come on, please.
We should just end it, and then Fisher can record it by himself, and then you just tack it on the end.
Yeah, it's like,
hey guys,
this
I'm
is
back.
What I'm into, just so you all know.
Go. Okay, sorry. Go. Please tell us.
Yeah.
I knew it was a little early for the show to be over. Okay.
I actually don't have, after all that rigmarole, I don't have a ton of. The puppy has been very distracting, but I am very excited. There was a game that got announced that I'm very excited for, and I just got accepted. I applied to be a playtester, and I got accepted to be one of their playtesters. So I'm excited to playtest it, it's called Moonbreakers. So it is by Unknown Worlds, I think that's what they're called, the developers of Subnautica. So Subnautica was...
It's a video game?
Yes.
Right.
So Subnautica was like this game that really hit me just like at the right time, and like was just the right game I was looking for. It's this underwater survival game, and it just like hit me just right at this right time in my life where it was just the escape I needed at the time. And so I really have fond memories of Subnautica, and so when I heard Unknown Worlds was making a new game, I was very excited. And interestingly, it's nothing like Subnautica. It is a miniatures game done digitally, so it's trying to be as much like a tabletop minis game as possible. In fact, it has like a painting mode where you can like paint your models and like do custom paint jobs on your models in the video game. On top of it being, so it has this kind of tabletop digital crossover, which is very close to my heart because I was the digital director at Fantasy Flight for several years and worked on a lot of the app integrated games there. So kind of the space between digital and tabletop is very close to my heart. And then all the world building for the game is done by Brandon Sanderson, who I've been reading a ton of over the last couple of years. And so like this game just like checks all these boxes for me. So I'm pretty excited to check it out. the graphics are pretty cool. The animations, I'm gonna have to get used to, I think, because it's trying to evoke a miniatures game. So like the 3D models are like miniatures, and then when they like fight, they kind of just like we wobble back and forth, which can look kind of silly sometimes. So we'll see if I can get used to that. But it's kind of got like a fast skirmish type gameplay. They kind of harkened it to like the Hearthstone of miniatures games. So we'll see. We'll see what I think of it. Like I said, I'm gonna play test for them and
Cool.
check it out early. So
That's awesome.
yeah, I'm pretty excited.
It looks amazing.
I'll be interested to see if they stick to the miniatures not animating, or if they'll end up giving them a little juice.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of expecting, a bit more animation. I've played a couple games that kind of, well, I've played more than a couple. I've played a lot of games that kind of do the tabletop digital hybrid thing.
Mm-hmm.
And some kind of get away with it by having a lot of particle effects and animations, and like the attacks not having the character animations. But these were like, I saw one where it was just kind of like one miniature smashed into the other. Maybe there wasn't enough juice to it, enough screen shake or whatever, but we'll see how I feel when I'm actually in the
it
game.
Is early access, right? So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and it's if anyone looks it up, it is Moonbreaker. One word.
Okay,
what did
I was just
singular.
some other thing.
I was.
What you're talking about.
Yeah.
Moonbreakers Moonbreakers is an
Moon-
old game from 2012. Says the internet.
What?
Moonbreaker.
Oh, Moonbreaker singular.
Yeah.
And I said plural.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I apologize. Moonbreaker singular.
Moonbreaker looks way cooler than Moonbreakers.
It does.
It's amazing that like you can. Oh yeah, Moonbreakers, 2 words. Not this game. Singular moon. Only one Moonbreaker.
I think it's pretty cool how the miniatures don't really animate.
I like the commitment to the aesthetic.
Because it's a little more than just wobbling around, like you said. They're doing something with it.
Oh yeah, and they show like big particle effects with like flames and stuff, and so
Spinning around,
like I think it's got a cool look to it. And like they kind of, I think they took a lot of cues from like XCOM with how they break up the health bars and stuff to make it very readable from a distance. So yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what I think once I actually get to play. The other big thing I've been doing lately is it was my partner Sam's birthday this last week, and we kind of have this tradition of making super extra cakes for our birthdays. We usually make them ourselves. We have the cookbook from Momofuku Milk Bar, which is this kind of fancy bakery. Christina Tossi, what's her name?
That sounds right.
Anyway, she makes these incredibly elaborate cakes. They're famous for not being frosted, so you can like see all the layers, and they just have really complex, lots of steps, lots of different layers of stuff, very rich. And so we have this cookbook, and we try to make a new, different one every birthday.
Wow.
And Sam managed to fit in making 2 cakes, which is why I used plural for this week. So we made a pineapple upside down cake that has like layers of candied pineapple and a like pineapple buttercream, and then like a cherry soak, and that one's pretty good. It ended up a little crumbly, but it was still pretty legit. And then the second one we made was a blueberry corn cake. So it has like this blueberry, I don't know, whatever you call it when you cook them and get it all syrupy.
Compote.
It has like layers of blueberries and then layers of corn, like a corn-based cake. And I think that one's our highlight. It's very good. It's the corn adds an interesting kind of flavor element to the cake.
That sounds awesome.
Is it called a reduction? Is that what it is?
I think so.
Yeah, it might be.
Compote.
Oh, maybe that's it.
I was gonna say compote, but but with a confidence I did not have in that being the right term.
I also guessed reduction, Evan. That's where I landed. But maybe that's more of like a sauce.
Oh,
Yeah,
I've watched a lot of Chopped until I went away from the streaming service that I had, and I learned a lot of lingo. But it's been a while. I'm kind of rusty. So
compote would be with fruit. Would be like a fruit sugary thing. Reduction, is like sauces and things. I went to culinary school. No, I didn't. I don't know why. I watch a lot of Triple D. If you
I
don't know
love
what that
Triple D.
means. Me too. I love. It's maybe my favorite show of all time.
is that diners,
Drive-ins and dives.
drive-ins, and
Yeah.
dives?
You got
Is that is that Triple D?
Yeah,
Guy Fieri.
Guy Fieri, who I love actually. Okay. Did we get
But yeah,
everybody
that's
now? Everybody get a chance to go.
I think so.
I'm
glad.
happy.
I'm glad you went, Fisher. I liked what you had to share, and I'm glad I got to be the one who had the correct word for the sauce.
That we know of. There's somebody who's going to be in the YouTube comments being
Right.
like, "No,
Neither-
it's this."
Technically, yeah. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. It was fun talking to you. And reach out to us, info@earthbornegames.com, and we'll see you next time.
See
Bye,
ya.
everyone.
Bye.